Hi all, welcome to this class on organizational behavior. This will give you a good overview of the McShane textbook, some additional viewpoints, and some of the latest theories that this textbook doesn't really cover, and some of the things to expect in the upcoming class video call. Just want to remind you to go through the Prezi slides in combination with this video. And first of all, for those of you subscribing to this YouTube channel on management principles, this video might not be for you. Rather than quick tools to help you address employee and leadership problems, this series of videos titled Organizational Behavior are a series of videos that are taking students through this class on organizational behavior, or for previous students who just want a refresh or an update on some of the latest perspectives that I've added since they've been taking this class before. So this means I'll highlight some of the things I mentioned to maybe 10 years ago and how my perspective has really changed in this course since then. And for those who are managing but not taking this class, you'll obviously find some good nuggets of information, but these videos are primarily designed for those students taking OB, who are really forced to listen to this instructor drone on and on about the importance of organizational behavior and how to be good managers. Going forward, you'll see separate channels and playlists to help you differentiate between the two content streams. So I love to start this class with the students really around general business history, because I think it's really important to talk about how this course fits into the concept of what kind of manager do we need to be according to the age that we're living in. Many are aware that over the last century, business value was created differently. In the early 1900s, value was driven by the ability to mass produce things quickly and cheaply. Henry Ford's a great example of that, where the ability to produce model cars on a really efficient production line was key. In the mid-1900s, it was all about multi-divisional companies that created value by having diverse business operations with many different arms. Mergers were kind of the de facto norm. Larger, it was better. Profitable was generated through size. And the economy is really shifting towards blue-collar jobs and white-collar jobs, small factories being replaced by large mechanized ones, factories employing hundreds of employees, and we saw the rise of unionization back then. Interesting point, in General Auto Motors, workers began a lengthy strike of 148 days in 1965 with 17,000 Canadians in Ontario. In Canada, we saw the rise of department stores, and the Bay is a great local example of that, rising to success. How many of us remember going to the Bay with a family trip to buy a lot of things and consumer goods? We also saw back then employees dedicated themselves to the job. Many stayed within the company for their entire working lifetime, followed the rules, did what they were told. Organizations were very formal back then. They lacked diversity and didn't really think globally. And if you're a history buff, I've really added a link down below from the Canadian Encyclopedia summarizing some of the economic trends within Canada during that time. In the 90s, we saw buyouts and ventures becoming very popular in business. For example, General Electric's a great example of that, where they used really creative financing methods to create value, buying organizations, stripping them, selling them off in pieces, or making them more efficient. Today, what we see is really the rise of what's called the networked incubators, organizations that are creating value through innovation, through creativity capital. And right now, that's what I used to say is a pretty interesting point from previous students, is that who are alumni, you would have remembered this, is I used to talk about this being the creativity age. However, what I would say now today with a fresh perspective is that from futurist perspectives, they're really arguing what this age is all about. Some are arguing that this is an experience age, the age of reckoning, the post-digital era, and there's some really interesting debates online of where we're at. My thoughts: I believe that we're in an age where we need to create great employee experiences for our employees, to engage them and excite them. We are in a war for the most talented individuals out there, and we have to create an exciting workplace for them to be at their most creative. So I'll argue that we're kind of in this creativity experience age. I know this is somewhat of a cop-out, but with so many futurists not agreeing, it's hard for me to make a clear stance on what age this business is in. Just look at some of the examples of fantastic organizations out there doing this well, creating wonderful workplace culture that has unique identifiable identities, much like a consumer product. And what does this mean? I think that ultimately we've got to create exciting workplaces to get highly qualified, most talented individuals in our workplace. And there's in the links in the Prezi slides, you'll see a little clip from Michael McQueen, a futurist who talks a lot about the workplace becoming increasingly automated, remote, informal, flat, freelanced, and location flexible. I think with the recent COVID-19 pandemic, the remote, flexible, and location-independent workforce has really been forced much more quickly, and we're seeing many people working remotely. And we're really at a crossroads where we're so disconnected from our communities with all our workplace. Will our workplaces be the new places where we connect? I think that's one thing as organizational behavior perspectives, is that we have to think about how do we create a sense of community in the workplace, especially when people are getting disconnected so much today. Interesting questions. And maybe the question for this class is, do you think the workplaces will become our new communities as people isolate more? So let's finally talk about what is an organization in Chapter 1 of the McShane textbook. For the purposes of this class, we'll define it as a group of people working towards a shared purpose. I show a little video in the Prezi slides from Pixar called For the Birds, which is a great example of poorly performing organizations, where they're gossiping and not performing together. And organizations can be highly dysfunctional, like that Thanksgiving turkey dinner at our relatives where we all attend and no one really talks about the internal problems. And in this class, we talk about general organizational behavior theory, looking at companies from 4 lenses. Open systems perspective is that organizations today really have to take into account the environment that they're working in. High performance work practices, the second lens, is we need high performance work practices to make them run effectively. The third lens is really around organizational learning perspectives. Good organizations today really have good structure in terms of how to learn and be better each time. And the fourth lens that we look at in OB terms in this course is really around the stakeholder perspectives. How does this organization really integrate with the community? How does it integrate with the various stakeholders that it interacts with outside of this organization? And so I just want to remind you to make sure to review the slides on the changing workplace, the impact of technology, the emerging employee relationships, globalization, and diversity, and make sure you reference that in the textbook as well. During class, and we'll be asking you what you think the most important trend is, and how do you think we should address this. And so that's the end of kind of the reference points that I wanted to highlight on Chapter 1 and the textbook on organizational behavior as we get this class started. But let's talk about some alternative perspectives, which the textbook doesn't cover, which I don't think they do a really good job of, is what does it take to be a successful employee today? So some of the things that I think students really need in terms of context before starting this class is, what do you need to be successful in today's job market? So to ensure that you start this class in the right context, I want you to consider what it needs to be successful. And why are you taking this course? To further your career, of course, to learn some new perspectives and be better. And some of you as students are just accidentally in this class from another program, and you're taking this as an elective. But I hope you find that this class will be amazing after you take it. In this class, I like to share this video from Ernest Wilson, you'll find in the Prezi slides, on the 5 skills that employees need today. Make sure you watch it and think about it. Do I have these traits? And if not, what will I do to address these weaknesses? During this class, I'll talk a lot about what you can do personally to really look at these 5 ideal qualities and what you can do to improve them. And the last thing I also want to mention in this class today is really that the textbook doesn't cover off well is generational conflicts. I think it's something really important. I think that the textbook doesn't cover, and it's a really good theory that I want you to understand is I think the important workplace trend right now is that 4 generations are currently coexisting in the job. We have baby boomers close to retirement, Gen X's like me who are frustrated as the sandwich generation, millennials who grew up with instant gratification, missing social skills, but are very entrepreneurial, and Gen Zs who are digital natives, who've learned around technology, are pragmatic, shrewd, and diverse. I like to share this relevant video from Sinek. It's well watched, and it talks about the challenges of millennials in the workplace. And to be frank, we've had problems with all new generations that enter the workplace, and managers just don't know how to adapt to these new challenges of these new workforces. In this course, we're going to talk a lot about how to adapt your management style to these different diverse groups, whether you're managing up to baby boomers or whether you're managing down to Gen Zs. And it requires different skills that you practice. And Simon Sinek also leads an important concept about how relationships need to form in the workplace, which I'll really further elaborate a lot during our video conference as a class, as one of the most important techniques to workplace management. And hope you enjoyed this brief video introducing Chapter 1, and I'll see you in class soon. Bye.